Sitting on a park bench one day, I was engaged in a conversation with a stranger. He was lamenting about people who lived off the government, people on Social Security, for example, and how they were draining the government of its resources. I was angry at how blatant he was about the so-called lower-classed people. It was close to the 4th of July. At one point he asked me what I did for a living. I do nothing for a living, I said. I simply live, and I'm grateful to be alive. I'm a veteran, having served 21 years in the armed forces. I live on a Navy pension, and I do get some Social Security. I paid my taxes then, and I am, again, paying taxes on the money that was already taxed. I know, he was about to suggest that I was living off the government. But I said, to answer your question, I make videos for YouTube. At my age, I have assumed the responsibility and the privilege of doing what I wish, and I want to be as expressive as I can via my videos. My YouTube channel is called Microdac, The Thoughts of Microdac. I think that a major problem between Americans is that not all Americans are considered worthy of being thought of as people. It's tradition. When the Founding Fathers said, for example, we the people, black people were not considered people. They were property. When they wrote liberty and justice for all, since black people were not people, they were properties, as I said, they were not included. Unfortunately, in some circles, the attitude persists. If you don't believe me, be brave and think outside your own comfort zone, and consider how a victim would feel about this sort of attitude. Francis Scott Key, for example, was a defender of slavery. Every African American knows that. That is why, in some circles, there's an attitude to change the national anthem so that it reflects a more inclusive society. Those, of course, who defend slavery, subtle and otherwise, does not want that to happen, because it's a symbol of a way of life. If Francis Scott Key had his way, I would not be able to say what I'm saying. He was very much against free speech. Check it out yourself to see what I'm talking about. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not an indictment of America in the 21st century. After all, no matter what you think, the American principles are sound and are worth defending. Repeat, the principles are worth defending. The actions of our politicians is what I find disgusting. That is why it is up to each and every American of conscience to forego peer pressure and to work for the liberty and justice for all Americans, not just for some. Work for the liberty and justice for all Americans. I think that we can treat people with disdain and with contempt because we grew up having a lack of respect for life forms. For example, a cow is more important than a raccoon, right? A flower is important, but call a fauna a weed and it is to be eradicated. The insecticide business is booming because insects are to be exterminated. Today's political parties exist because of an attitude that some people are more important than others. You no doubt embrace a particular party because of its traditional habit of putting down a certain group of people. No doubt you may even have perfected the rhetoric to hide such ugly feelings and pass it off as policies. Yes, it is my attitude, it is my opinion that even these so-called lower life forms called bugs are important in the greater scheme of things. Now, we can be a bystander and just notice things that are happening and do nothing. In other words, just continue to fan the flames by being not involved. Or we can get involved and change things and make it better for all Americans. Those are my thoughts. You, however, should think for yourself.